thank you one more time. The program this morning on ITV on independent television. I did tell you that Saturday is going to be election in Edo State and all across the nation Nigeria. For some states, we're going to be having the governorship election and of course the elections into various seats in the House of Assembly in those states. And here in Edo State, we're also going to be having election into various seats in the Edo State House of Assembly. And of course, we do know that when we talk about elections in Nigeria, there is a body, an organization that is saddled with responsibility of making sure that we have free, fair election. Talking about the Independent National Electoral Commission. And if you take your mind back to 2 weeks ago, 2 Saturdays ago, when we had the election into the National Assembly seats and also the presidential seats, the presidential election, you know, accusations here and there, counter accusations, and of course a lot of people really made some suggestions for INEC to see how they can improve on elections in Nigeria. So here this morning, we're going to be feeling the pulse of INEC so as to see the readiness of the Independent National Electoral Commission as far as Edo State election is concerned come on Saturday. And of course, talking about that now, we are so privileged to have Mr. Matthew Ogwocha. He's the HOD, that's the head of Department Legal Services of the Independent National Electoral Commission, Edo State. Sir, you're welcome to this program this morning on ITV.
Good morning and good morning, viewers.
Yeah. And also, too, we had to merge 2 topics into one today because of time. And we're also going to be looking at the second bid of President Muhammad Buhari's administration. I told you that INEC declared Buhari as the winner of the presidential election. And, you know, it's time to set agenda as we look ahead of the second term bid for PMB. And for some people, they say that PMB really has to start from the economy, while some say no, it is the area of security. And that's the reason why that I had to go out to invite Pastor Ambassador Amos Arelegbe. He's a politician and of course a public affairs analyst. Sir, you're welcome to this program this morning on ITV.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, let me start from the INEC man because he's more needy now. Now, Mr. Matthew Ogwocha, let us look at what do you think INEC did not really do well as far as the 2 weeks Saturday's election, you know, was concerned?
At the risk of sounding immodest, I would say it may not necessarily be that there are things that INEC did not do well as such. Maybe we should look at other organizations. Before the February 23rd Presidential and National Assembly elections, we had hitches. Remember, it was supposed to be held on the 9th earlier on. So there were things that was not or were not put in proper perspective. So we needed to go back to the drawing board, and that was why it was postponed for a week. And so within that week, those lapses were taken care of. If there are other areas like security lapses, as reported in the media, I think it is not really INEC doing. Yeah,
when you talk about security lapses, most of the problems is really not just security. Take, for example, the issue of, you know, voting materials, the ballot papers, the result sheets, not, you know, visible even at the polling units. That was not a problem that has to do with security.
Yeah, that one, I'm sure we have taken care of that. These are some minor...
okay, but you agree that INEC did not do well as far as that is concerned?
No, there is no way you will get 100% outing in any exercise of that magnitude. We agree there were some last-minute hitches that needed to be knitted up, and that is why the Commission has been very, very up and doing this time around to take care of such unforeseen lapses. But remember, elections are organized by men, humans, not angels. So you don't expect 100% compliance, so to speak.
Yeah,
there's always a 99.9. The 0.1% is God's vote. There's always one reason or the other you may not get things done at the right time or the right thing done exactly the way the public and you expect it.
Yeah, I was listening to one of your colleagues, some time ago, and of course, he was trying to really explain something about the performance of INEC, and he said something that it cannot be excusable for sensitive materials not to arrive at polling units. And of course, I had to really reason with him. And of course, when we talk about sensitive materials, we'll talk about the result sheets, the ballot papers. I mean, this last 2 weeks election, we saw pockets of reports, units that ballot sheets, papers were not ready, result sheets were not ready. So when we begin to make excuse that, okay, 100% and all that, I think we really have to, because we are saying this now so as to guide against future occurrence as we, move towards Saturday's election.
Yes. So that's exactly what I think the chairman said something about that the other time. That was why the election has to be shifted. Sometimes, some places 1 hour. Instead of commencing from 8, you commence from 9 or even 10, depending on when the material arrives. Okay. These are minor unforeseen hitches. As a lawyer, there's what we call force majeure in law as the act of God. There are things you cannot just foresee on the road. Maybe the driver of an engaged vehicle, maybe there is an issue with regard to road or anything. That could be the reason why material may not reach from the rack center to the polling unit at a particular or the designated time. So it is not a deliberate thing. It's just that something you cannot foresee as human. But we are taking care of those things now. Okay.
Now, for Saturday's election, perhaps some people see it as is probably going to be tougher than the presidential election. I mean, it's more local, more tougher in the sense that you just find some politicians, maybe state governors, that really want to really do the bid, their own bid as far as that election is concerned. Because any state governor that misses out on the House of Assembly election may also have lost out. So how is INEC prepared for this? Talking about the pressure that Saturday's election may likely put on INEC, looking at it vis-a-vis the kind of attitude that politicians may want to show as far as the election is concerned.
Yes, I agree with you that there is some pressure, but fortunately for us in Edo State, we have only the State House of Assembly elections. We don't have a gubernatorial election. That should be next year. So on the issue of pressure, there is really no pressure. We are not feeling any pressure on the part of INEC because our structures and the materials are ready. We have done what we should do. If there is any pressure, we don't even feel it. I don't know about the
politicians cannot mount pressure on INEC?
No. To do what? Whatever pressure you are mounting is just like the one we are doing here. You have to mount it within the ambit of the law. Because if you go beyond the law, INEC is completely incapacitated.
How is INEC ready for Saturday's election?
We are. We have gotten seized of our sensitive materials and non-sensitive. We have done the batching and sorting. So I don't know what's next. And like I said, this one for us is a walkover because it's just one single election for Edo State, particularly Edo State, single election. That is State House of Assembly. We are not combining, unlike the other one that was 3. So it is much, much easier now. And I assure you the necessary materials arrived on time.
There are allegations that politicians are exchanging names from the last ad hoc staff that INEC worked with. That politicians are probably replacing names with, political card-carrying members that would do their bidding. I don't know whether INEC is aware of this. It is an allegation, though, but is INEC kind of aware of this?
I'm just hearing it for the first time. Allegation remains what it is, an allegation, until it is proved. But what I can assure you is that politicians don't recruit ad hoc staff. They don't suggest names of ad hoc staff for us. As a matter of fact, the Electoral Act is very explicit. There is no card-carrying member of any party that should be an ad hoc staff or a permanent staff of the commission. You can't be a card-carrying member. Where we do our recruitment is from corpus. The other one is the academics, that is for collation only. From Uniben from the Ivory Towers, you know, those people are people we respect with high level of morality and integrity. When you have gotten to the level of a PhD holder or a professor and you want to soil your name for any reason, it's up to that individual. But for me or for us in the commission, we believe that those people are those academics at that caliber, they are world citizens. They can't afford to be, you know, they can't just afford to soil your reputation because of pot of porridge or whatever. So that's why that is the main catchment area for our collation officers. Then the presiding officers and the assistant presiding officers, these are corpers basically, or ex-corpers that have enough integrity and does not have any issue where the shortage of core members, serving core members. So I don't really know where the issue of recruiting ad hoc staff of just from the street.
Oh, that they are replacing our politicians are replacing the ad hoc staff. Maybe probably now replacing the ad hoc staff that worked before with their own political members parties so as to do their bidding.
I think that is almost like saying it is impossible, like what I said. Once you are a member of a political party, you are automatically barred from the only thing you can do.
But how can you really know if somebody is a member of a political party? Take for example,
you give us your data. You have your phone number. We verify.
How do you verify? Do you have the, no, Mr. Gotra, we are looking at because there is a problem in, I think some of the issues we are dealing with in Nigeria is that we really don't have a single database for information in this country. So you tell me that if I come and I apply for, so I want to be an ad hoc staff, how would you really know that I'm a card-carrying member?
Sorry, we make our discrete investigation.
That is where we are dealing with one or two persons.
You can only apply to be an ad hoc staff as an assistant presiding officer 3. And that only comes where we don't have enough corpers. Yeah,
but even at that, because I have monitored elections. Now, those assistant presiding officers 3, their roles are very, very important on election day. I mean, they are the ones that check whether you bring a card, you bring a PVC, a permanent voter's card. They are the ones that see, they check it with the card reader to see if you are the true person. I mean, if you employ somebody that is a political card-carrying member of a party, then of course he can just, you know, we cannot really wish their importance away.
I agree with you, but we have our internal mechanism. We've had agreement with the security agencies that in the ICES level. So we have our
it's still the same thing we're saying. When I say that single database generates information, any person can claim anybody in this country. That's what we're saying.
It is not as easy as that, because like I told you, our sister agencies, I mean the security agencies like the Department of State Securities, they do some of the underground works in some of these things. That's why the law provides 2 weeks for political parties to submit their party agents so that we will know them. Then on the issue of ad hoc staff, you don't just come and apply and you take. I agree with you that sometimes, for reason of exigency, like when there is a absenteeism, when somebody absconds from duty, at that point, it may be necessary to do last-minute replacement, like in an hour or so before the election properly. That's when we get to the rack center.
Okay.
And that is where you may even have such issues, but fortunately for us, we have not really had such issue. And when we suspect your movement and desperation to be ad hoc staff, once we suspect your desperation and your certain, like they say, kurukere movement, we know what to do. We'll just single the person.
Okay. Now, Pastor Amos, thank you so much one more time for joining us. Now, we also said we're going to be looking at PMB's second administration. And it's kind of a time to really set agenda for President Muhammadu Buhari. And I remember in 2015, when he came in at the inaugural ceremony, he made a speech that took everybody by storm. He said that he's for nobody and that he's for everybody. And of course, he came into power and we saw the first tenure. Now, looking at this second tenure ahead, where do you think PMB can really start from? Because some analysts say that we have a whole you know, plethora of issues, economic issues, security issues, issues as it relates to low or lack of infrastructure in some places. So where do you think PMB can really start from?
Well, for me, I think number one place is security. Security, because it must be tackled seriously. Because there are some corners who have been receiving calls and talk from here and there that the first tenure of our president has been one-sided. That is, if you look at his cabinet, it's filled up with those in the north, neglecting the east, south, and other, and the west. But this second tenure, I think day before yesterday, I was hearing his spokesman was saying the president is going to be tougher this time, and it's going to be an inclusive government, and this inclusive government does not mean from other party. He says it's going to be from the whole states. That this time around, well, it's just a message. We'll wait for them to implement it first.
But I think what, because I also listened, I was privileged to listen to that. I think what the spokesperson, Festus Keyamo, you know, was trying to say that PMB is going to take, you know, tougher steps to ensure that corrupt persons are brought to book and to ensure that the economy is revived. I think that was what he was trying to say. Except if you have a contrary explanation.
No, part of it is not all. See, if you look at his cabinet now, just like I've said before, it consists of those men from the north. Look at our security.
No, you can't say all his cabinet consists. You can.
Let me say the chiefs.
I can.
The chiefs.
You can't. No, you can't say so. No, I won't let you say so. You can't say so. At least I have our own minister for health, for Minister of State for Health. Our own Hanire is from Edo State. So we can't say the cabinet is flooded by. I think we can say that.
Well, okay, if you say we should go by that, fine. But now he said he's going to tackle corruption and he's going to put in credible. You see, most of politicians, not all, that's I hate to say, people will tell you the politicians are liars, politicians, they don't keep to their words. It's not all. There are some good politicians that are ready to serve, that are ready to deliver, that has even delivered in their constituencies. But since he's saying that he wants to take it, let us give him a try and see. I'm not of the APC, but to me, I believe a man of integrity should be able to be a man that can tell you, I'm going to do this and I will do it.
But on a more serious note, as a Nigerian, Pastor Amos Arelegbe, on what basis do you think Nigerians actually voted PMB back to power?
That's $1 million question.
No, it's very simple. But
because from my own from what I gathered, not everybody voted for him.
Of course, but majority of the people voted
you
by him.
heard the PDP say they are going to court.
Yeah.
That was not the reflect of their vote by voting PMB. That no, because someone was telling me at that time, say, if actually this man really won, our president really won, you would have seen jubilation, like when Oshomole won during when took over from.
No, the person,
there was massive jubilation.
Yeah, but the person that said that probably said it from where he is. I mean, take for example, Amos Arelegbe, you are in Edo State here. Edo State, APC did not win Edo State in the presidential election. It was PDP that won.
Yeah.
So you cannot expect Edo
there should
people
be mass jubilation. That's
no, it's still something I'm saying. So for the fact that people did not jubilate here, doesn't mean that people did not jubilate elsewhere.
Well, let me not argue about that. But one thing is certain: whoever that is.
No, you've not answered my question. Because on what? Because we on what basis you think PMB really won this election? That people voted for him?
If you want us to digress that, I will tell you. If you look at what is going on, they will tell you he didn't win it. It was rigged. I don't want to go on that allegation. That's why I said we shouldn't dive into that.
When you say it was rigged, how? Because INEC announced that PMB won. So
INEC is an umpire. They always announce what they want them to announce. I'm not saying they are biased, but from the fact, because from the feelers we got, because I was also an observer. I coordinated Edo and Delta State. You see, there are so many things that even unheard of. You see, buying of votes, rigging of elections, and all. That's it. Not until we get it right, things will keep on going this way.
Well, there are other reports that this election
was not rigged.
No, we can't. I can't. No, you cannot. It is not in my position to say it was rigged. It was not. It's not even in your own position to say it was rigged. I mean, whoever is aggrieved the election, is rigged, should go to court. The courts are there.
That is why PDP they are going to court now. If it was free and fair, I don't believe this idea of going to court will not have arrived.
But this is not the first time that we're having a losing party.
Because they didn't believe in it.
After all,
it's when you don't agree.
In 2011,
yes.
PMB went to court.
Yes, because he didn't believe until it was proven.
Of course. So it's not the first time that we're having a political party going to court. Anyway, we still have Mr. Matthew Ogwocha here, HOD Legal Services of the Independent National Electoral Commission at the state, and we're looking at Saturday's election. Now, back to you, Mr. Matthew. We were looking at looking at things that INEC need to do as we make progress towards Saturday's election. So, which areas do you think INEC really needs help so that they can really perform maximally as far as this election is concerned on Saturday?
Yes,
I just want you to be very sincere.
Yes. To be very sincere, we have had all sorts of news from the media, and where we are concerned is security. That is where we need some. That's why from the onset I said this would have been directed to the security, but because we have a good partnership with them, so I think they are also listening. They should be aware of adjusting the security architecture to ensure that men and materials and voters are protected on the election day. That's one side. Then on our own side, there were identified issues on area of logistics, and as I'm speaking, we have taken adequate care of that. And those issues are not going to come up again? I don't think they will not. Because I had the former head of education, Mr. Wilfred Ifo, here a few days to the election, and he so assured me that the issue of logistics, will not come. And on that Saturday, we saw a whole lot of reports of logistical problems here and there. So what is really the problem? Yes, that's why I told you there is what is called force majeure. Something you don't expect. You may have disappointment from the transport agency or the driver or the vehicle in certain areas. You remember, I mean, you agree with me that the logistic issues, it was not widespread. It wasn't every polling unit in Edo State. There were some areas. There are some areas that have difficult terrain in Edo State. There are some polling units that are like 2 hours apart from the rack center before you get to some places in Orion. Before you get to from your rack center, before you get material to the polling unit, you can take as much as 2.5 hours. The polling unit, and before a vehicle moves from the rack center, to the polling unit, it has to come from the LG to the rack center overnight to sleep there. So this sorting is done in the early hours of election day, from the night before, early hour to the early hour of the election day, before you now dispatch. You know how rowdy such things can be. Such situation normally are, but we try to manage it. That's some cases. There are places you don't access with vehicle, with buses or cars. You have to go by bike. Okay. So now, is INEC really in charge of, because the election is one thing, but the most integral parts of the election is the collation. Is INEC really in charge of the collation? Well, I have to tell you that is basically policy matter. It has never been the situation until 2011, when the past commission decided that to take the burden of INEC or of the staff. The burden include the blames and everything. It's better we use these people that we don't doubt their integrity to do collation. It will be like I don't know how to describe it, to start doubting a professor.
Is that why we are probably having issues with collation? Because it seems that it's a very big problem with collation.
Yes.
I mean, it is at the collation centers that you find people fight, that you find politicians, they come, they disrupt the process. And
exactly, because some of this
is being done.
Because most of these academics, you know, they can't compromise. Majority of them, I'm not speaking 100%. Some of them cannot compromise, no matter what you try to influence them. They have their integrity to protect. So probably that is part of the problem. What I would advise that the system should ensure adequate security at the collation centers.
Okay.
And then allow these people to work where there are issues, because some of them may not really be fully abreast of some technical issues in collating. So if they need to...
But I thought I thought INEC may not be in charge of collation, but INEC supervises the collation.
Yes.
So if INEC is on the ground of collation, how come we still have some of these issues emanating from the technicalities they are talking about?
That's why I'm saying that sometimes, you know, our academicians, the professors, and so some of them may not really be, I have to be frank to you, some of them may not really be humble enough to take some corrections or some things from an INEC staff who has been in the system for like 15, 20 years. And then, because they have been empowered to do that, you steer clear. Don't say, this is how you can do this is how you can do that. And for an INEC staff who is just maybe you are first degree holder, or you are not up to that, you are coming to tell a professor of mathematics, this is how you balance your thing. The professor will feel insulted. But on issues of when material should be kept, or how it should be done, or how you spread it and do, I think the professor should be kind enough to listen. Collating is summing up figures, isn't it?
Yeah.
When it is what you can do. Nobody will teach you that 5 plus 5 is 15. Nobody, you can't convince that there is no mathematical...
So what you are saying is that we should try to return the collation back to INEC. Is that what you're saying?
No,
so
I will not say that, because I'm telling you that, what I'm telling you is that this is a policy issue. Okay. And we are not allowed to speak on policy issue. Okay. But on the issue of how our material should be returned back to us, and how it should be used on the field, the collation officers should at least listen to the electoral officer or the EOs on how to gather these things. Okay. But on their job, which is specific also, they may not have to take any instruction from the INEC official.
And one other thing that I personally witnessed on that last 2 Saturdays was, I don't know whether to say it's a kind of an inadequacy on the part of INEC. I really don't know the right word to use, but I didn't like the idea. Now, I think INEC should be early enough to display voters' register, you know, at polling units, early enough before 8 o'clock, because the idea of coming late to polling units, then sometime around 12, 11, you start displaying the voters register to confirm whether you are truly, you are really going to vote there. I think it's really not, it's something that INEC really needs.
Well, I think that still boils down to the logistics setbacks I said earlier, which has been meted up now. I think it has been taken care of.
So we're not going to find that on Saturday?
No.
Okay. Now, Amos Arelibe, as we make preparations to go now, we're still looking at PMB's administration second term. Agriculture is there, infrastructure is there, and of course the economy is there, though you've talked about the security. So what do you think PMB did not do in the area of security in our nation that this government probably needs to look or take more drastic steps, so that we don't have recurrence of attacks here and there, Boko Haram insurgency in the north, and of course pockets of insecurity in the south here. So what measures do you think that PMB needs to take this time?
Yeah, I believe he has to take tougher measures on them, because to some school of thought, it's like you are shielding some certain people because they are from your tribe. I don't want to go into that.
How do you mean? No,
because, like now,
whatever you say it must be something that you can defend.
Yes,
so shielding which people
like
now?
You see, like when these Fulani headsmen were causing damages, and there was even an incident in those states where
some of the alleged Fulani headsmen.
Yes.
Yeah, let's put it that way.
Each time
can you put it that way? Some of the alleged
Fulani headsmen.
Yeah.
You see, each time they strike, and you see our own people want to take laws into their hands, which I'm not encouraging, because each time they go to the security agency as available, they'll tell you give you one or two excuses. So that's all. You see, people now take the laws into their hands, which I'm not actually advocating for them. Want to take action immediately. They'll tell you these government agencies, they are slow to take actions. So the president this time around should not favor anybody. If you are guilty, you are guilty. Take stiff measure on them. Whether they are your tribesmen.
When you say the president, he has the police forces there, because sometimes some of these things are allegations. Even the one you talked about that you take the case to the police station, the police say that no, it's all allegation. Is there anyone that you can, as you sit here right now, that you can really pick points and talk on?
My brother, see, let me tell you something.
No, we must say it, because that's the whole essence.
Even if, like now, I cannot be on ground at that particular spot. But there are some incidents that somebody will come and report an incident to you that, look at what happened. Because you were not there, what will you do? You
find out if it is true.
Most of these things are 99% right.
How? If you find out and if it's true
Now, look at the killing that took place in Taraba and Bonud. You see about this woman, if the picture was all over the social media, that was killed because she was having preaching of the gospel of Jesus Christ in the north, and she was killed because in the name of the religion. Let me put it that way. You see, but people couldn't take actions. Why? Because you belong to that particular.
No, but it was said that she was attacked. So anybody may have attacked her. So it's but I read that story too. The way the story came was that she was attacked. So the story did not
because she was preaching the gospel of Jesus Christ.
Because she was found out at such time of the day. So that's why she was probably attacked. So that
Christian will not attack the Christian.
Anyway, let's leave that now so that we don't bore you so much. Now, Mr. Matthew.
Yes.
Now, one thing we also discovered on Saturday, last two Saturdays, as a matter of fact, it was in a particular unit. You know that we saw the ballot boxes were mixed up, because it was said that the red should be for the Senate, while the green for the House of Representatives, and of course the black ballot box should be for the presidential. But in one or two centers, we saw mixing up of these ballot boxes with their colors, and that became very, very confusing for voters. So in this Saturday's election, what color of ballot box are we going to be seeing, or are we going to be using, so that voters don't get confused?
That's what is an easy thing for us in Edo State. We have only one election.
Okay.
Well, there's only one ballot box.
Okay.
So whatever color you see there, you just cast it. So that's it.
All right.
But I can assure you it's going to be uniform.
Okay.
Just one color.
And you are really assuring us on this program today that some of those things that we discovered, we're not going to have them again on Saturday.
Obviously.
You are sure?
Yes. You know, Edo in particular. I think we shouldn't have any problem. We have only one election, and that is House of Assembly.
Yeah, one election, but very decisive.
It's decisive, but you see, on the part of us as a commission, we have done our, like I told you, 99.9% preparations. But the stakeholders, that is the voters and the politicians, have they done their part? That's where we have our problems.
Okay.
If they can conduct themselves well, we don't have issue. We don't have issue again.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Matthew Ogwocha. Is the HOD Legal Services of the Independent National Electoral Commission, Edo State here, and he has told us the preparedness of INEC's, readiness for Saturday's election. Well, we'll just keep our fingers crossed so that we can have a free and fair election. And also Pastor Ambassador Amos Arolige, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure. Always a pleasure to have you on the program.